Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and all of the participants from the four corners of the globe who are now watching the Geotourism Fest and International Conference 2021, bringing up the theme of resilience of geotourism. Welcome back once again, everybody. For those of you who are watching virtually right now, we're going to move on to our next sessions of the Geotourism Fest and International Conference, which is going to be a presentations from experts. Who are going to be the expert on this very lovely occasions will be led by our moderator, Mr. Muhammad Azizur Rahman, MSc. So, ladies and gentlemen, before we go further to our presentation of expert, I'm going to have to say thank you very much for those of you who've been very loyal towards our event in these very lovely occasions. Thank you for those of you who are watching the opening ceremony of the Geotourism Fest and International Conference 2021. And finally, before the moderator taking over the presentations of the expert, I'd like to sign off, and I'm Muji Idris, have to say goodbye to you all, and I'm so sorry if there's any inconvenience caused during the opening ceremony until the panel sessions. And later on, the next sessions will be taken over by our moderator. Once again, please welcome everybody, Muhammad Azizur Rahman, MSG, and I have to say goodbye to you all. I'll see you tomorrow, everybody, at the closing ceremony, and we'll take over, we'll go on to the experts presentation.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The conference is about to begin. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon to all the experts, guests, participants, sponsor, media reporter, as well as the journalists. It's my pleasure to be a moderator in this hybrid event in the first Geotourism Festival and International Conference 2021. First of all, I would like to welcome all the experts, all the participants, and all the guests that come to this event. Thanks for squeezing the time to join us today. In this session, I will continue the session from Mbak Lia. I will be the moderator for this session, the second session. Before the conference begin, let me introduce myself. My name is Muhammad Azizur Rahman. I am a lecturer of Sekolah Tinggi Pariwisata Mataram in Tourism Department. I will be moderating four participants, for presenter in this session. Before we begin, I have a few rules of this event. The first one, this event is being recorded, be available for viewing post-conference. And the second one, if you have any question for the expert, please use the chat in the future, chat feature in the Zoom webinar. The third one, if you have any technical question, please, you can reach out our team by send personal chat. And the last one, each presenter only has 20 minutes, including Q&A session. Without further ado, let me introduce you to our presenter today, our keynote speakers. The first one is Professor Ibrahim Komo with his paper about geotourism development in Asia Pacific, Geopark, its potential and development. The second one is Professor Noel Scott, Creative Economy Product in Development of Geotourism. The third one is Professor Jin Xiaozhi, the Networking to Develop Geotourism in Asia Pacific. And the last one in my session is Professor Nickel Ni with his paper about community-based geotourism or CBG response to change under disaster. Without any further ado, we're gonna go to the first expert, which is Professor Ibrahim Komo. Let me explain or let me read some of his profile. Professor or Emeritus Dr. Ibrahim Komo is a scholar in the field of earth science, specialized in engineering geology, conservation geology, and sustainable science. He is a head of Environment and Natural Resources Cluster National Council of Professors, or MPN, and international expert to the UNESCO Global Geopark, and as well as a lot of achievement that he got. And also as a scientist, he has published more than 55 books and more than 350 scientific papers. He has also published numerous articles for public awareness in magazines and also in newspapers. Okay, without further ado, I will give this time for Professor Ibrahim Komo. Are you there? Can you hear my voice? Hello, Prof.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hello.
Yeah,
Good
hello, hello.
afternoon.
Yeah, I can hear your voice.
Yeah.
Okay, please, Professor, time is yours.
Thank you very much. I hope my presentation will be shown by your staff, or shall I
Okay.
put myself?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum and very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I have very short time, 20 minutes. I'm going to talk about geotourism development in Asia Pacific geoparks. A little bit on the background, and then I'm going to give some example and maybe some lesson learned. Can I have next slide, please? Okay, geotourism actually is a new product, new tourism product. Mainly, it use knowledge as the ingredient, or we promote knowledge-based tourism. And the main thing is about utilizing value of geological resources, especially based on the geological story, whether it is about evolution of the earth or processes. It also involves about aesthetic value, inspirational. It involves recreational, and most importantly, geotourism also link geology, biology, and cultural heritage. Geotourism has been well developed in UNESCO Global Geopark. In fact, most of the UNESCO Global Geopark promote geotourism, and income, societal income, mainly based from this geotourism. But geotourism can also be promoted based on the geosite, outside geopark. So this maybe require further discussion. Next slide, please. Of course, I am not going to dwell with this definition, but I just show you two definitions so that we are in sync in discussing geotourism. One is from National Geography. If you look at this definition, geotourism is like almost everything. Tourism that sustain and enhance geographical character, meaning more of a geography, looking at the environment, culture, aesthetic, heritage, and also a well-being of the resident. But I like to refer on the definition based on the Aroka Declaration in 2011, where it involves sustaining and enhancing identity of the territory, but taking into consideration the link between geology, environment, culture, aesthetic, heritage, and well-being of the resident. Basically, the geological component is need to be look in integration to other aspect of the tourism. Next slide. When we look at this geotourism in geopark, basically we are utilizing geosite. Geosite is an area or site or landscape of international value or national value or a local significance. So geosite is actually the main ingredient in developing geotourism. Most of the geosite have many attractions, apart from for conservation purposes, but they have a lot of attraction. First, they have scientific knowledge related to the evolution of the earth. It has a natural history, It has natural beauty, have a uniqueness, have grandeur. It is suitable for recreational value. It has also unique, sometimes special biological and also cultural heritage. So all this can be used, can be combined and used for geotourism. And geosite also closely related to the cultural and the belief of the local or indigenous community, meaning that within the geosite, almost all the heritage and the connection with the biology and the cultural aspect can be utilized. Geopark encourage geosite to be conserved, but at the same time, geosite is well suited for sustainable use, mainly geotourism. And in using geosite, usually we look at the tourism site, meaning where is the exact place tourists should visit in the geosite. The recreational side, what can we do in the geosite? We develop geotrail. We have a geoproduct, all kind of geoproduct, and also the hospitality for tourism activity like place to stay, restaurant, coffee house, and some basic facility needed for the geotourism. Next slide, please. So if we look at the geotourism in Geopark, taking geotourism in Geopark as an example, within the geopark, we have an area like the blue color geopark. There are maybe one or two or more biological biosite, whether it is a conservation area or national park or state park. And we have several geosite. Sometimes some of the geosite within biosite, sometimes it is outside the biosite, and we also have a cultural site. So in geotourism, we should be able to utilize geosite as the basis for the tourism attraction. Then we use biosite, biodiversity conservation area, and the cultural site as an additional attraction or a complementary attraction. Then we develop geotrail to provide link between tourism attraction and the story. So we can have several links that give emphasis on certain aspect. Can be emphasis on the aspect evolution of geology or beauty of the landscape, or a combination of nature, culture, story about the geopark. So geotourism in geopark should utilize almost everything, almost all heritage. Next slide, please. Okay, I'm going to my topic, which is geotourism in Asia Pacific. Mostly in Asia Pacific, the recreational area and landscape of natural beauty has been developed as tourism area, and then further developed as a geosite or geotrail in the geopark. So before geopark, this place has already been there and tourism has already taken place. Secondly, the development include creating a new geopark museum, redefine geotrail, and also provide new information board with geological information and additional tourism facility. Another thing that is new actually is making local people actively involved as a management staff, guide, or workers, and local people around the area or around the geosite can participate in their tourism-based business. So they can have their own small business to take advantage from the from the geosite and the geotourism activity. Next slide. Next slide, please. Okay. I take a few examples in my presentation. For example, in Langkawi UNESCO Global Geopark, we have a couple of geotrail for geotourism. One of the most important one is Machincang Peak Geotrail. This Machincang Peak Geotrail utilizing landscape and aesthetic value of the geopark. It is also introduced the concept of Machincang Cambria Geoforest Park, the combination of biology and geology, and looking at the one of the oldest rock formation in the country. The tourism attraction here actually is Sky Cap and Sky Bridge, meaning we have a sky cap going up, and then you, in the picture you can see a sky bridge where people can have do recreation while enjoying the scenic beauty of the place. The attraction here is a story about landscape. This is an anticlinal mountain with various unique peaks that can provide the aesthetic beauty. A sandstone forest, a special forest, with stunted tree, and also the legend of Machincang is a giant that used to be once a giant that has been changed into the people into the mountain. In Machincang Peak Geotrail, the facility is top class recreational facility, and currently is a top tourism site of Langkawi. Prior to PKP, we have more than 1 million visitors per year. So next slide, please. For the next slide, here we call it Bio Geotrail of Kubang Badak. This is a new geotrail. It's just a fisherman village prior to the geopark. But when Langkawi became geopark, we developed this area with the idea of geotourism. So we utilize 3 geosites, which is the Gua Pinang, Pulau Jumuruk, and Tanjung Buta, and also a mangrove forest reserve as the component. Then we look at most suitable attraction. We found 11 tourist sites that can be used. I listed in this, like Kubang Badak Fisherman Village. So we introduced the people, the community. Then we introduced Kubang Badak Island, a small island in the middle where we can see the development of, or the biodiversity of the mangrove. We have a Menora Hill, a small hill used to be a place for Siamese people perform their cultural, which is Menora. Then Sungai Siam will traveling along the river to see the mangrove. We look at Jemuro Island for fossil trilobite, Tanjung Buta for rock formation, Machincang rock formation, and Kubang Badak landscape for cave experience. So from zero, after introducing this before PKP, we have roughly about 50,000 people visitor per year, and completely managed by the
recording in progress.
Next slide, please. Okay, I show some of the examples from China.
Recording stopped.
This is a colorful hill in Zhangji Geopark. It used Hamuki landform, and the color of the landform actually depend on the strata weathering, and this kind of landscape and landscape beauty is rare globally and highly attractive. So Geopark, Zhangyi Geopark provide first-class facility including a visitor center, recreational area, observatory deck, station, research station, and even helicopter visit. So this is one of the typical
Recording in
geotourism kind
progress.
of activity in China, in Geopark in China, and in this area, more than 2
Recording
million
stopped.
visitors visit this place every year. Next slide, please. Okay. In Zhangji, they have another place, another area which is also a fantastic place. It has window, lattice, and palace shapes Dancia landform. It's part of the World Heritage Site of China Dancia Red Sandstone, outstanding landscape. And here also they build a first-class facility, including visitor center, recreational area, and all the necessary for the tourism, including the cultural connection with the people living around that place. And this site is developed and managed by local authority. And 2 years ago, it's about 1 million visitor came to this place. Next slide. Another example from China, from Xijindong UNESCO Global Geopark. If some of you still remember, this is a place for Asia Pacific Geopark Network conference 3 or 4 years ago. So I like this place very much because it involved a good trail, part of the karst landscape of Zijihe River, attraction including underground river, cave, Tenggu natural bridge, you can see in the picture, Dakakau Tianking or depression or gorge, and karst biodiversity with 400 meters sky lift. So at the end of this trail, you have a sky lift, and this is also developed and managed by a local authority. And 3-4 years ago, more than 200,000 visitors per year. Next slide. Okay, I give some example. Now I try to conclude what is the kind of geotourism in Asia Pacific Geopark. Usually it is based on the well-developed geotrail, and the route connects several geotourism sites within and between geosite. So within geosite or between geosite. And usually it relates to recreational, adventure, and educational trail. It can be walking, bike, boat, cable car, or combination. The attraction is always landscape beauty with some geological or cultural or even the combination of heritage. It also look at the give emphasis on the conservation of nature, good facility for visitors. They have a tourism story and landscape interpretation, good management, well-developed management, and most importantly, local community actively participated in this. And the income mainly from gate collection and a small business as a main income for the tourism activity. Okay, last slide. Maybe this is the last slide. So my concluding remarks. Each UNESCO Global Geopark in Asia Pacific has between 5 to 10 geotrail for geotourism activity. Mainly, it is a redevelopment from the existing tourism. Can be nature tourism, can be ecotourism, can be culture tourism, and closely related to outstanding landscape beauty. But having geopark, they re-look at the geotrail and put geological knowledge and link geological knowledge with natural and cultural heritage as the main attraction. Geopark provide technical and financial support for geotourism development. So many of these geotrail and geotourism activity are managed by the Geopark Authority. We can see clearly it improves the well-being of local community through active participation as a worker, as a staff of the geotourism product, but also as a small businesses. So at the same time, it sustainable utilization of geological resources, meaning that the geological resources is being used while conservation can still be conservation of the geosite is being looked after. I think that is my presentation. I hope you get some gist from my presentation. With that, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the excellent presentation, Prof. So now we are going to the Q&A session. Let me check if there is any question for Professor Ibrahim Como. Okay, there is only one question, Prof. It's about comparison between the development of the geoparks around Asia Pacific. Actually, so if we compare from Japan, China, Malaysia, and Indonesia, in Japan they build the geopark using how to say it's without damaging any environmental. But if we see that in Indonesia, there is a problem actually in Lombok. There is an investor that they want to build a cable car in Rinjani. So the problem is a lot of people disagree about this plan. But if we can see that in Malaysia, there is a cable car in Malaysia in I forgot where is it, but
Langkawi.
Yeah, Langkawi. I've been there. I've been there. It's such a good place actually. But in here, people disagree about this plan. So actually, what is happened in your point of view actually? What is the difference between these countries, Japan, China, and Indonesia actually? Yeah, that's
Okay,
the question,
thank you
Prof.
very much. I can give example. In Japan, the tourism has taken place for a very long time. Not just geotourism, it's just nature or cultural. So when they have a geopark, they just improve by adding knowledge, by adding geological knowledge. So much so that in Japan, not much additional infrastructure. They use existing infrastructure and just add on more content for the tourism. But if you visit China, just now I show some example. They develop the place very well with fantastic infrastructure, million of ringgit museum, new museum, fantastic trail, sky lift, sky cap, all kind of thing. But at the same time, they put emphasis on the sustainability of the development and also integrity of the geosite, integrity of the geological site. So they build infrastructure very well, but at the same time they conserve in China. In Malaysia, Langkawi is a good example. I give just now two example. One example where government have developed very well infrastructure, sky cap and also sky bridge. But we build this in such a way that minimum damage to the environment. There is almost no damage. The sky cap have only two steel and half a kilometer apart. So the forest there is still intact. Same as in the top of the mountain, the sky bridge is using one foundation, foundation, and the bridge is like hanging, so the forest is not damaged. And because of that infrastructure, people are attracted, and million of people come visit. If there is no infrastructure, nobody will enjoy the landscape. Honestly, if you want to develop geosite for geotourism, you have to build infrastructure. And of course, you must take care of the integrity of the geosite. Don't ever destroy your geosite at the expense of the infrastructure. But there is no issue of developing infrastructure for geotourism in the geosite. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor. So the point is, it's okay to modernize the geopark as long as you're still taking care of the environment. Okay.
Yes, yeah.
Thank you so much. Once again, thank you so much for Professor Ibrahim Komo for the presentation. And now we're gonna go to the second presenters.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome, Prof. Please give applause for Professor Ibrahim Komo. For the second expert is Professor Noel Scott, with his title is Creative Economy Product in Development of Geotourism. Hello, Prof. Noel Scott, are you there? Can you hear my voice?
Yes, I can, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, clearly. Okay. Okay, Prof, time is yours. Please.
Well, thank you very much. And so I'd like to first of all thank the organisers of the GeoFest and International Conference. I've been attending, and I'm impressed with the quality. Although this is although I'm not there in person, I'd very much love to be in Lombok today. I'm in Brisbane in Australia, but the presentation so far has been wonderful, so congratulations. I'd also like to thank you as the moderator, Pakma Raman, Professor Como, and my other two speakers, Professor Jin and Professor Nai. So it's great to be amongst such illustrious company. My talk today is going to be about, I'll just share my screen. So can you see this? Can you see my screen now?
Yep.
Oh, good, thank you. So I want to talk a little bit about geotourism, but probably some of the things that fit around geotourism and the idea of developing, in particular, Mount Rinjani, the Mount Rinjani area for tourism. So what we're trying to do, of course, is to develop products, let's call them products for tourists. But those products should have some sort of social benefit, as well as ensure the protection of the environment. And one of the ways that governments, especially in Indonesia, are very interested in developing tourism products is to use this idea of creative tourism. And so that's where I want to talk about where does the creative economy, where does creative tourism fit in Lombok tourism development, and how does it relate to the Mount Rinjani Geopark? And it is interesting. I've got a screen clipping there from Dr. Thilstrup, who in his talk gave some interesting points about developing experiences related to geoparks and storytelling, and how that may be able to perhaps empower the local people. So I'll try and bring that theme into the presentation as well. So, before I focus too much on the product, I want to sort of think about where a geopark fits in the visitor journey, the trip that I might take to come to Lombok. I would make a booking, I'd journey there on an aeroplane, I'd get there, I'd collect some information, I might go to my accommodation, find a place to eat, go on to have go to visit some attractions and amenities, experience infrastructure environment, return home. And what I've tried to do is put some crosses. These yellow crosses are places where creativity and creative tourism products can actually fit into the overall journey. And I'll come back to that in a minute. But the other thing I want you to think about is where Lombok is at the moment and how it's developing, to think about where perhaps Mount Rinjani and the geopark fits. So, of course, originally we had development in the Gili Islands and Sengigi. Oh, well, first, of course, it was in Mataram, then Sengigi, and then most recently we've got some development down here in the south. And you can think about that. Oh, and then, of course, we've got this area, which is it's a national park, so there's not a lot of infrastructure there, which people access from a variety of different entrance points. And there's a very interesting model about how tourism destinations develop. If we imagine that we've got an island, you can see a series of different stages in their development, from an initial place, one initial destination, perhaps we might call that Mataram or Sengigi, to the starting to develop multiple destinations. So now we've got the developments down the bottom there. And after that, we start to get this connection from those resorts into the hinterland. And to me, that's where Lombok is at the moment. It's starting to develop secondary places where people might visit, often on an excursion, on a touring loop. And so that again is something to fit in, to think about where we are, because when we're talking about accessing Mount Rinjani in a geopark, we're talking about either two things. So here's sort of a strategy or a picture of the island. We've got our three main places where people live. We've got a number of access points which are green. People use those to trek into Mount Rinjani, but they also use them as places to visit on tours. So we've got really three different uses for the areas surrounding Mount Rinjani. We've got some small-scale overnight accommodation. We've got day tripping to these access points, and then we've got trekking into the area. And one of the things I'd like you to think about, even at this point, is where are the places where people will go shopping or have casual dining on their tours and things? Is that developed? So we'll come back to that. The other thing I want you to think about is the reason why we're doing this stuff. Why are we developing the Mount Rinjani Geopark? Well, we want to try and improve the livelihoods and the money, the income that local people get. There's no point in having a geopark if there's no benefit for the people who live around it. And so, again, we should be thinking about developing products and services around or within this geopark that benefit local people. And that can do that in a number of different ways. It could be in accommodation, food, tours and excursions, handicrafts. We might be doing it through transportation or village homestays and things. Maybe we're going to use local food. Maybe we're talking about farmers and so on. So again, you should be thinking when you're developing tourism products, creative tourism products or any type, how you can link those products to local people in some of these areas. Okay. So what's creativity about? What are we trying to do with creative tourism that can add value to Mount Rinjani tourism? The idea, basically, and a number of people have talked about this before, is to take some existing resource, let's call it a geosite, or let's call it local culture, or local food produce, or local crafts, which are already being developed. And what we want to try and do is use creativity and developing experiences which relate to them to add value, to increase the amount of money that people get. And we do that through identifying the resource and then working out how we can add value to it with creativity and add experiences, maybe myths and symbols and emotion and performance, which will help us to make a experience out of what is a product. All right, so what we've got here, this is the equation down the bottom here. Core resource plus creativity and innovation equals added value. That's what you want to do. And what you can do is identify many products or core resources that already exist and add things to them. Add performance, emotion, atmosphere, symbols, myths and legend, tell stories to make something, to make that product into an experience which is unique, meaningful, and memorable, so on. So creativity and innovation are the way, the reason you're doing it is to add value, make more money from your product, improve your promotion, and perhaps increase the number or certainly the amount of money that tourists spend in the area. So here's some ideas. I like showing these photos. So I've got an example here of something that I know is very famous about some of the areas in around Mount Rinjani, and that's the traditional cloth weaving. Okay, so it's a wonderful thing. It's great tradition and it's beautiful to see. And so what I was thinking about, well, how can we increase the value of this? How can we add experience and creativity? And so we're going to move from traditional cloth, that's what the resource is, and we're going to think about how we can add value. So we could be creative. We could start to maybe, I saw this as an example this morning, where using arts and crafts to but contemporary arts and crafts to add value to the area. Well, we might be able to do that with souvenirs as well. We might be able to add some contemporary design creativity to produce souvenirs which might be more able to be sold for more money. But you can do it through experiences as well. You might want to, when you're making traditional cloth, you can actually demonstrate the weaving. That's good. But then you can add co-creation. You can actually do weaving classes where a person learns how to weave along with the people weaving. Or another example, traditional cloth is dyed. There's a dyeing process that is used. So you might be able to actually demonstrate that, or even allow people to try working or producing cloth that is dyed using this traditional process. That's another, that might lead to additional tour income. And then my favorite, I'm sorry, I'm a bit funny, but traditional cloth can be made into clothing, so you might be able to sell clothing. But another great thing to do, which I haven't really seen much in Lombok, is this idea. So this is in Padang in West Java, West Sumatra. And there you can go to an interesting palace, but then you can get dressed up in traditional clothes and get your photo taken. Or here's an example in Oman, where you go to a museum and you can get dressed up in the traditional clothing of the people there. So I'd love to do that in Lombok. You just need to tell me where I can do it. And of course, by the way, this is a great way of earning money. Other ways to be creative is to identify a story and then develop that as something to talk to tourists about. So here, traditionally, you know, the Samolas explosion of 1257, where the top of this mountain disappeared and caused a little ice age in Europe, apparently. So what a tremendous, interesting geological story. But there are many others that you could develop. How my mother made dye for ikat. You could talk about the history of a family, how they make the dye, how that helps, how they use that in their weaving. Or here's a good one, how to win at stick fighting. It's not just looking at stick fighting, but you might actually learn out how to do it, learn some of the basic techniques. And another one that I found fascinating in Lombok is the idea of sitting, you know, most villages have got one of these places where people sit and discuss issues in a village. That's a fascinating story, but I didn't know about that until someone told me the story of it. So all of these things are ways to be creative and provide experiences for people which will add value, either to a tour or to a visit to a village. But there are many different types of stories. So think about what you can do. Certainly, you can add experiences. So you might own a small accommodation establishment in the mountains, but you want more people to stay overnight. So you add some stories or excitement at night that people want to see, which means that they stay overnight. Or you add other things for people to do during the day, such as a creative tour where you make things. Here's some ideas about using creativity and innovation. Theming your product. So we're in a geopark, so we've got mountains and volcanoes and things. What about having mountain or volcano cakes? Or this one apparently is called a volcano drink. I don't know why, but so you could have themed food and drink. Or, and I know Melly has done some of this work before, in accommodation, you could have room decorations themed in the type of theme of a volcano. So this is called a lava lamp. I love it. They were very big in the 60s, but you can get those and maybe they'll help to demonstrate the flow of lava in the crust or the mantle. And another idea of adding value through creativity or perhaps innovation. In the areas around Rinjani, there are many handicrafts, wood crafts, hand-woven cloth we've talked about, ketak boxes, bamboo furniture, pottery, rattan work, and also a whole series of different types of agriculture. Now, one of the things you might think about doing is adding value by taking the vanilla and somehow using that in some food that the tourists might like. Or You might like to think about taking cacao and turning it into chocolate. Or you might want to think about coffee beans, but offering coffee to people. And when I was traveling around in Indonesia, this was a few years ago, in around Lombok, I didn't see many good coffee shops, but that's one of the things that at least Australian tourists are very interested in. So you also need to think about not just developing these experiential products, but working out how you're going to use them. So you need to be able to tell people about them and sell them somehow. So that's how you're going to take your creative and innovative tourism products and turn them into a tour, and who's going to sell it? How are you going to advertise it? One of the things I would strongly suggest you think about is establishing some tourist villages, which are places where people can do shopping for local goods, or even to have just nice food, a relaxing coffee, or some sweets and sugary food, or something that's a bit of a treat. And also, so that's about linking to the customer through who is a self-drive or an independent traveller. This is how you might link to the tourist through distributors, through tours. But there's plenty of things. So I've certainly seen some wonderful photos of the culture of Lombok, and this one, which is perhaps a more contemporary take on Mount Rinjani and geotourism, and how you can connect it to tourists through some sort of innovation. So in conclusion, and I've gone pretty quickly, but what I want you to think about is innovation. So tourism works by development, and there's a number of wonderful things that are happening in the villages around Mount Rinjani. Maybe you can help those things by finding innovative and motivated people and giving them a few opportunities to develop their creative products. If you do that, never take the first idea. Brainstorm 100 creative and innovative ideas and then evaluate them for the tourist interest, the amount of money you can get from it, the environmental impact and the benefits for local people, and decide which of the 100 you're going to actually implement. Think about innovation in terms of different types of customers, perhaps. People who are taking day trips. I think there's opportunities there for innovation in terms of experiences, but also even just shopping, souvenirs, and food. For people that are staying overnight, it's about experiences, perhaps even things to do of a night time or early in the morning. And for trekking people, that seems to be where most of the focus of product development is occurring in Lombok around Mount Rinjani at the moment. That's good, but that's only a small percentage of all the people who are visiting the Mount Rinjani Geo Park area. Resources, you've got heaps of resources. Wonderful culture, really interesting traditional food, some wonderful traditions, heritage. You've got some beautiful nature, we've talked about that. So you've got lots of resources, but what you need to do is just move them through a bit of creativity and innovation to add value to them. And in particular, I'd like you to think about locating, this might be a government task, planning and locating for some areas which could become tourist hubs. And in those areas, you would have a bit more concentration in retail outlet shopping and food and beverage provision. Okay, so thank you very much. That's my talk, and I'm very happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor, for the outstanding presentation.
Thank you.
Yeah, since we are running out the time, sorry for the participant, so there will be no Q&A. But
Of
if
course.
you are wondering about something to Professor Noel Scott, you can ask him by personal chat or something, or by email. Is that okay, Prof?
Of course, yep.
Yeah, okay. Now we're gonna move to the third one, is Professor Qin Xiaochi with his paper about the networking to develop geotourism in Asia Pacific. Hello, Prof. Qin Xiaochi. Are you there? Hello, Prof.
Yep. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. 你好.
Yeah. So now I don't know to share my screen,
Okay.
but I'm not alone to share my screen. I'd ask the operator to let me to share my screen.
Okay. But before you start, let me read some of your profile to let people know that you are a lecturer in Institute of Geology, Chinese Academy of Geological Science, and also in ASICA Pacific Geopark Network Advisory Committee Coordinators. Okay, without any further ado, time's yours, Prof. Please.
Thank you. So first of all, I'm very happy to be asked to give a talk here at the Geotourism Festival. So I was asked to tell something about networking, what the role the networking played in the development of geotourism in Asia Pacific region. So this is a big title, so I can give just some general ideas about that, cannot go further into details. First of all, I'd like to express my sincere thanks to Reggiani Lombard UGGP for organizing the second Geotourism Festival in such a difficult time to show the resilience of the UGGP. And this time, this is a heartbreak fest geotourism, and together with an international conference of 2021. I have to say, Reggiani Lombard UGGP has set a very good example for our Asian Pacific Geoparks network in this respect. So the geotourism, so far as I understand, it means it should be a sustainable tourism. So it must benefit the local community and society without sacrificing the future of the next generation. So this is just a general idea about that. And but what's the opposite side for the unsustainable development or unsustainable tourism? It's very common in the Asian Pacific region. This is not go away. That is a mass tourism. So in many areas, people will find, especially in big holidays, you find mass tourism. This is not a means or way of tourism we are encouraging, and this cannot be classified as one of the geotourism. So geotourism should be sustainable ones. So the secondly, geotourism should be responsible tourism. It needs to minimize the negative environmental, social, and economic impacts, and increasing the benefits to the communities. So this is a very important moment, because now we are in this pandemic time. There are still some geoparks within our Asian Pacific Geoparks network, which are doing some or carrying out some activities which cannot be considered responsible. These activities usually attract a lot of tourists, and the tourists may spend a lot of money there, but this may cause some damages, especially for the protection of the COVID-19. This is not a good example for that. So we are encouraging responsible tourism. So geotourism should also be responsible. The third aspect of geotourism, I think, there should be a scientific tourism. Through this geotourism, we need to empower the tourists and also the local residents with scientific knowledge about the territory's geological history, climate change, and then geohazard mitigation. Without all these activities, just commercialized tourism, that's not geotourism. It's not good enough. It's good for all our member geoparks. So a fourth aspect for geotourism, I think it should be a tourism promoting cultural heritage. To promote and sustain tangible and intangible cultural heritage of all the territories with our network is a very good aspect for the geotourism. So for this first, I was asked to talk about the role. What a role can a networking play in the development of geotourism in the Asian Pacific region? So first of all, I'd like to make a brief introduction of Asian Pacific Geoparks Network. We now have 66 UNESCO Global Geoparks in the Asia Pacific region. It is scattered in East Asia, North or Central, or almost the whole of the Asia. You can see from the left of the picture. We have the newest member from Indonesia, that's Belitung UNESCO Global Geopark, to become a new member of this year. So we are now together 66 UNESCO Global Geoparks in the Asian Pacific region. Since we are scattered all in a huge area of Asian Pacific region, so the geodiversity in geoparks of this huge region is very big. We have very high geodiversities. We have volcanic rocks, marlics, karst, sandstone landforms, granite landforms, fossil records, mineral deposits, deserts, glaciers, tundra, tectonic boundaries. A lot of things here can be found within the geoparks of Asia Pacific region. This high geodiversity is also forms the basis of biodiversity in the Asia Pacific region. So we have actually extended from the tropical rare areas that in Indonesia, there's about 2 or 3 degrees south of the equator, to northeast China and the northmost part of Japan. That was almost 50 degrees latitude north. We also have geoparks in Central Asia, also in Iran. We also have that in the northern margin of high Tibetan Plateau. So in such a geodiversity region, we have a variety of plants, animals, and different phyla. So the cultural diversity, high cultural diversity is also a significant character of geoparks in Asian Pacific region. We have numerous ethnic groups, different nationalities, speak different language. We have different history, traditions, habits, and mentality, as well as the way of living. So of course, foods, costume, buildings, a lot of differences. So it's also a high cultural diversity in the Asian Pacific region. So, given the high geodiversity, biodiversity, cultural diversity amongst the Asian Pacific Geoparks network, there would not be a fixed model for all the geoparks. So every geopark in this network should find out or explore or develop a way or pattern or paradigm which best fit your own territory, while not ignoring the good practices of other geoparks. So this is a basic idea for what a networking can do in Asian Pacific Geoparks network. So talk to the essential aspects. What role can networking play in the development of geotourism in the Asia Pacific region? The first point, networking can make all the geoparks here to share good practices. Because we are so diversified, a good practice can be found in different geoparks. For example, in some remote areas in the countryside where the people normally they don't have enough land to grow, they went to big cities to find job there. But as the geoparks developers, they have already found their own way to produce bioteas and using very traditional agricultural way or the methods to grow their own teas. And this tea is proven to be very valuable and very tasty. So this development, they also sustain the local community and bring the villages to prosper. So many people, they went to big towns, and now they are coming back to work in their homeland within this geopark. That's only because they find a proper way to develop their own homeland. So the second point I'd like to mention, that's a networking. For networking, that is share brilliant ideas. So we have so many geoparks. Every geoparks may have creative ideas or innovative ideas. Some can be very brilliant. I'll just give you a little example. In this picture, this is from Zigong UNESCO Global Geopark. So they have made all the geological history like big leases, but each leaf is actually a sheet of rock. They carved all the old fossils and make it a big book, so people go to here and they can learn the history of this region for a larger extent, from the Cambria to Ordovician to the modern society. So this is a very big example that can be learned from other UNESCO Global Geoparks. The third aspect for the networking to develop geotourism, that is different geoparks within this network, they can experience successful management in the network, because the APGN normally organize some coordinated activities. So different geopark workers, they are visiting other sister geoparks, or they visit other similar geoparks with similar geoscience or the history. So where they can learn successful management within our network. So this is also the right example here. This is a desert geopark in northwest part of China. And also this good example is also introduced to our colleagues in Saudi Arabia. And the people there come here to learn how they can manage such a good geopark in a desert area. That's just what the Saudi Arabia want to do at the moment. The fourth point, that is also very important, that's through networking, we can avoid ineffective measures or arrangements in some geoparks. Through networking, people know each other, and then they will find some ineffective measures or
Hello, Prof. Are you there? I think there is a connection problem. Okay. Because there is a problem with Professor Jin Xiaozhi. Maybe we can move to the last one. Professor Nicole Ni. Hello, Prof.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Ni hao, Prof.
Yeah, 你好.
Professor Nicole Ni is from Department of Environmental and Cultural Resources, National Tsinghua University, Taiwan. Oh, Taiwan. I was studying over
Taiwan,
there.
yes.
I was a student of National Chia University, Prof.
Oh, yeah, it's a good place.
Yeah, 我是学生，台湾。
Oh, so you can speak Mandarin well.
Yeah, 一点点可以啊。
Recording in progress.
Okay, Professor Nicole Ni will talk about the community-based geotourism response to change under disaster. Your time is 20 minutes, Professor, and there will be a Q&A session. We're gonna collect all the questions and we're gonna answer it in the end of the session. Okay?
Yes, okay.
Yeah, there you go. Time is yours, Prof. Please.
Yeah, so may I make sure? Yeah, everybody can see my slide or not?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Yeah.
So I need to. I'm sorry because I'm not good at the room. So let me check again. So
好了，好了。
yeah, but may yeah, so everybody can see, right?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but it's okay right now.
Okay, 很好。
很好. Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, today I'm Nicole Ni from Taiwan. Just you like the moderator say he had been a student in Taiwan. Today, yeah, I will talk to you about the community-based geotourism CBG response to change under disaster. Actually, yeah, the previous speakers they mentioned about the geotourism is focus on the nature landscape like the stone, the volcano, and so on. But today, I will show you another kind of geotourism. In this place, you can see a lot of creatures. Not a stone, not a volcano, and it's the first one. And the second one I will show you. Just the three speakers mentioned about the geopark. I know it's a big area park, but for me, yeah, I think even in a village, in a small place, you also can develop the geotourism. So my topic is about the community-based geotourism. Everybody knows the community-based tourism. But today I create a new word, compound word, CBG. Yeah, means the community-based tourism. Okay, so it's okay. I make sure. Yeah, I'm still here, right?
Yes, Prof. But can you full screen the PPT, please? The PowerPoint.
So can you see? Can you
Yeah,
see? I move the PowerPoint, right?
Yeah, I can see.
Okay, good. So the next, yeah, I will show you. Yeah, actually, I haven't been Lombok a couple of times, and I also visit the Rinjani Mountains for my geotourism. Yeah, you know, here is at the bottom of the volcano, and yeah, I see the map and how to go the Crater Lake, and I see a lot of the notice and the interpretation, and everybody knows, yeah, it's the entrance to the Rinjani Mountain. And on the way, you know, it's tough hiking for us, for common people. So I appreciate the porters. They carry all my food and my luggage. Finally, after the long hiking, I see the Crater Lake. It's amazing and beautiful. So I love Lombok. And I also took the panoramic photo for this lake. Yeah, it's me. Yeah, why I share my experience for the Lombok? Because I push the geotourism. So today I will show you my research about the Taiwan case. Actually, my presentation are divided into the two parts. The part one is about the theoretical framework. Actually, I built an integrated framework by the vulnerability and the resilience. Again, vulnerability and the resilience theory. And I try to use the framework to examine and discuss my case study in Taiwan, in Taomi village. Yeah, let's go. So yeah, it's my integrated framework with the two theory, vulnerability and resilience. I know it's very complicated, so I will skip and shorten the framework construction. And I just show you it will include the time axis discussion and the structure agency discussion and the essential, the meaning discussion. I know it's complicated, but don't worry. I will take the example for you. So I will give you the example. Taomi is a local place and a local village in Taiwan. So where is the Taomi? Yeah, you know Taiwan is beside the mainland China. Yeah, so is a island. The Taomi village is located at the middle of the Taiwan. Actually, you can see the satellite map. It's a mountain area. So you can see a lot of the nature landscape and the ecological scenery here. Here is a small village, but why I mentioned this village? Because before the 1999, here most of people adopt the agriculture, like the planted the mushroom, bamboo shoot, and the water bamboo. Yeah, it's a so common village at that time. But in 1999, a big earthquake damaged here. All the village almost damaged and destructed. So yeah, you can see the building. Yeah, the building crashed, and most around the 62% damage rate in this village. But you know, each community face the disaster need to recover. So in Taiwan, you know, a lot of nature disaster. So that's why I use the resilience or the vulnerability to combine them to be my framework, because I know many community will face the crisis events under the globalization. Like especially the climate exchange, the climate change in the global. So I use the framework. I hope I can tracing the crisis events for this village. So you can see the scale. So every community you can encounter the global or regional or local scales crisis event, and the different level of the impact. Like the disaster is serious, is most serious, and the second one is the middle, is the disturbance. Yeah, it's the middle, and the little serious is could be the stressor. So I know even the geopark and as well as the village, they can face the different impact. So in my village, yeah, you can see the uneven development. Yeah, because everybody hope to learn the money, earn the money, make the money, but maybe it's unfair. And sometimes outsider investment is so huge, maybe it could be occupy a lot of money, so maybe it's not good for the local people. So how to solve these problems? So okay, so I found a study, example in Taiwan, in Taomi. So I talk to you and share you, and the first one I use the framework of the transformation analysis for crisis. Right now, after the earthquake, after the disaster, I know, everybody know, new opportunity and alternative is so important. So after the earthquake in 1999, this village make the first transformation. What's the transformation? They become the eco village. Yeah, they attract a lot of tourists to see the flag and the three flies. What's the three flies? It could be included the butterfly, dragonfly, and the fireflies. Yeah, a lot of tourists, including the Taiwanese people and the foreigner, went there to see the creatures. And around 10 years later, you know, they moved a paper dune in 2008. What's the paper dune park? Paper dune, this dune moved from Japan. Actually, in 1995, in Osaka, in Japan, also had a big earthquake. At that time, everything is crashed, and the people need to the religious center. So they built a temporary paper dome, paper church. So for their worship, their Jesus. 10 years later, in 2005, they will abandon the paper dome. And this village hope to accept the used the paper dome. And yes, they move into the village and become the second transformation in this village. Also, a lot of tourists came here, and to see the special paper dome. So everybody can make the money, including the B&B and the restaurant and the farmer. So this case study taught me they overcomes the crisis uneven development because a lot of local people can earn the money. The second
蓝
one.
透蔚蓝金黄，30秒晶嫩发光，7天紧致年轻。
I'm sorry. So, everybody still there?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, because some disturbance for me. But anyway, yeah, I try to. I'm sorry. I try to keep on my presentation. Yeah, and the second is about the recovery. Yeah, you know about the connection is so important after the disaster. Why? Because if everybody can help you, yeah, you can make help, yeah, from others. So yeah, you can see we divide into two kind of inside the connection. I keep quickly. I see. Yeah, there are have three association in this village, and also the outside connection like the New Home Foundation, the public sector, and the university and the private enterprise. Why the connection is so important after disaster? Because you know, yeah, there are a couple of association. They can overcome the crisis, the association disabilities. And if you can connect to the outside the organization, yeah, you can have the help at that time. So just I mentioned of the paper dome park, actually it's a New Home Foundation. It's a New Home Foundation move into here. Move into here, and right now, and at that time, he made a lot of money. So actually, this foundation transferred to the social enterprise, not a common NGO. So it's overcome the crisis, the main benefit into the paper dome park. So what's my point? The social enterprise is so important here. So right now, I will talk to you the third one. The third one is about the stability. The stability, yeah, you know, after the disaster, yeah, you can see the carry capacity and the threshold concept is so important. So in this village, the good community cohesion improve the social capacity. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm here. I'm sorry because it's too noisy in my environment. Yeah, so yeah, quickly. Yeah, so yeah, I will talk to you. Yeah, here, yeah, it can improve the social capacity, and the wetland ended, and the species diversification. It will increase the ecological capacity, and also the industry and the threshold by the corporation. Yeah, you will make the economic stability. So it's my point right now. the trinity of the key persons of association, and the ecological interpreter and the owner of the B&B. What's the trinity? So I mean the sum of the local resident play three roles, because they could be the key person of the associations, and he could be the ecological interpreter, and he could be the owner of the B&B. So even everybody knows the more outside investment is not good for the local people, but even the outsider, they will follow this rule, because it's geotourism. Everybody need to keep or maintain the nature environment, and everybody will make the money, and even you are outside, you will join the community associations. So that's why this village is so good. For it could be a model or example for the geotourism in community level. So using my framework, I analysis by the step 1 and step 2 and step 3. So, and I will make the comprehension analysis for my case study. So in my case study taught me, my local stressor events, more local stressor events and the field disaster, except the earthquake, represents the low vulnerability in Taomi. There are not big disaster here. And the trinity of a resident rules and the guided of a social enterprise and the creative idea for each 10 years have reduced the vulnerabilities and increased the resilience in Taomi village. And I will say the community had focused on a niche market in the rural landscape and had made an ideal resilient model in CBG, community-based geotourism. In the future, I know, in advantage of course to the popular mass tourism destination of Salmon Lake in Taiwan. So it will encounter a strong transformation in the future. So the big challenge in 2020 is how to make it more freshness for tourists to continue a geotourism is so important. So finally, I would say the crisis constraints resulting from its vulnerability, but could maybe get into a new resilient opportunity in Taomi village. Thank you so much. I'm sorry. Just I disturb you a lot. I'm sorry. Thank you so much.
谢谢老师. Thank you so much for a very good presentation. And this is the end of the session. Because we are running out of time, there will be only closing statement for every keynote speakers. For the first one will be by Professor Ibrahim Como. If there is any closing statement, please, time is yours. Hello, Professor Ibrahim Como. Is there any closing statement that you want to share with us? So the time is yours. If there is something that you want to say. Hello? Okay. How about Professor Noel Scott? Are you there?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, Professor. Is there any closing statement that you want to give to us or some advice to our tourism in Lombok or in Indonesia, please?
Oh, well, first of all, I'd like to thank my co-speakers for their excellent comments. I've learnt a lot from their work, so thank you very much. I think in parting, I think that the idea of geotourism is a wonderful thing, and it can help and support both local people and protect the environment and protect the geological heritage of a country. Those are all good. May I suggest that not everyone who goes to a geotourism park is a geotourist in a very strict sense. They will often go to experience the scenic beauty of the place. They will go to perhaps learn about the geological heritage and of the place. But I think that they want, and I think this is what the people in UNESCO were saying earlier, people want a wider range of experiences. And so I think there's lots of opportunities to develop those in Lombok through, perhaps as Professor Ni was saying, through community-based tourism and local development. And I wish you well with it. I hope that it's successful. Don't lose sight of just the basic things that tourists can provide, like food, souvenirs, which people can provide to tourists, food, souvenirs, and so on, which will enhance their experience as well. But thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Noel Scott. Now we're going to go to Professor Jin Xiaozhi. Are you there, Prof?
Hello.
Yeah, please, if you have some advice about the tourism or the geotourism in Indonesia, particularly in Lombok, maybe about the networking to develop the geotourism in Rinjani or in Lombok. So please, time is yours.
Yeah, good. Yeah, first of all, I to say sorry because my talk was stopped due to the bad connection. But I rechecked that. I stopped almost. That was my last slide. So I didn't miss much of my talk. So for my suggestion for Langkawi, for Rinjani Lombok, I'd like to say you have done a very great job since last year organizing the Geotourism Fest. And this year you have organized a second one. And this played a very active role for the networking in the Asian Pacific Geoparks network. So as a coordinator of APGN, I'd like to suggest you to continue to do that and to do more networking with other global geoparks and keep going. And you have a bright future. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Professor Jin Xiaozhi. For the next one is Professor Nicole Ni. Hello,
Yes. Actually, just we mentioned about, most of people focus the geopark. Like the Rinjani mountain. It's so special. So in Lombok, maybe not everybody can share the Rinjani income. So why I focus in the community-based geotourism? Because it's easy to do. Because if your community, there are a lot of resources or the nature landscape, how to management, how to keep it, and how to attract tourists to visit there. And the community member, the resident, could make the money. So if you are not located in the Rinjani mountain, and if you located in another place, if you make the community based geotourism, is also can make the money and make the economic development there and improve the social stability. Thank you.
Thank you so much for all the professor or all the keynote speaker. For finally, this is the end of the session. Thank you so much for all the experts for today and also the participant for attending this event. If you have any additional question, please you can reach our expert through email or even through any media, social media. And ladies and gentlemen, finally, we come to the end of this international conference. We would like to say thanks again and again to the expert for the important message, and also for the audience who are very active. And last but not least, thank you so much for guest, sponsor, and media reporter. Hopefully, the international conference will be informative and useful for everyone. Thank you so much. For the conclusion, the simple conclusion is that I got from this session, geotourism is how to make visitor aware and to gain some understanding of the geological feature that surround them. Geotourism is the kind of travel that sustain of enhance to geographical characteristic of a place and its environment, culture, aesthetic, heritage, as well as well-being of local people. I am Azi. Until next time, have a nice day. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you so much.
So there will be
cultural heritage, a magnificent piece of nature left by the great people of our ancient past. It is up to us in our prime of youth to love and care in peace and harmony, together hand in hand to build upon what we are given for generations to come to see the grand beauty of our nature, the heaven on earth, Indonesia.
Beautiful land with a rich nature, created by hand of Almighty God. We are very blessed to live in this land.
But now we forget to love and now we forget to save. We only become a connoisseur, enjoy the nature without having to destroy your needs.
Prepare yourself for a new day. Every cup has a silver lining. So take my hand now, make change together. Revive the old spirit that once we had. Can you see a beautiful valleys, rivers, lakes, and volcanoes, coral reefs and underwater life waiting for us to explore together? A beautiful land with a rich nature, created by hand of Almighty God. We are very blessed to live in this land.
But now we forget to love and now we forget to save. We only become a connoisseur, enjoy the nature without having to destroy your needs.
Set the nature for our children. The pandemic will be over soon. Prepare yourself for a new day. Every cup has a silver lining. So take my hand now, make change together.
We do it for love, we do it for our legacy, yo.
Revive the old spirit that once we had.
Wake up, we do it for next generation.
Can you see a beautiful valleys, rivers, lakes, and volcanoes, coral reefs and underwater life waiting for us to explore together? together. Revive the old spirit that once we had. Can you see a beautiful valleys, rivers, lakes, and volcanoes, coral reefs and underwater life waiting for us to explore? So take my hand now, make change together. Revive the old spirit that once we had. Can you see the beautiful valleys, rivers, lakes, and volcanoes, coral reefs and underwater life waiting for us to explore together?
cultural heritage, a magnificent piece of nature left by the great people of our ancient past. It is up to us in our prime of youth to love and care with peace and harmony, together hand in hand to build upon what we are given, for generations to come to see the grand beauty of our nature, the heaven on earth, Indonesia.
Beautiful land with a rich nature, created by hand of Almighty God. We are very blessed to live in this land.
But now we forget to love and now we forget to save. We only become a connoisseur, enjoy the nature without having to destroy your needs.
Save the nature for our children. The pandemic will be over soon. Prepare yourself for a new day. Every cup has a silver lining. So take my hand now, make change together. Revive the old spirit that once we had. Can you see a beautiful valleys, rivers, lakes, and volcanoes, coral reefs and underwater life waiting for us to explore together? A beautiful land with a rich nature, created by hand of Almighty God. We are very blessed to live in this land.
But now we forget to love and now we forget to save. We only become a connoisseur, enjoy the nature without having to destroy your needs.
Save the nature for our children. The pandemic will be over soon. Prepare yourself for a new day. Every cup has a silver lining. So take my hand now, make change together. We do it for love, we do it for our legacy, yo.
Let the old spirit that once we had.
Wake up, we do it for next generation.
Can you see a beautiful valleys, rivers, lakes, and volcanoes, coral reefs and underwater life waiting for us to explore together? spirit that once we had. Can you see a beautiful valleys, rivers, lakes, and volcanoes, coral reefs and underwater life waiting for us to explore? So take my hand now, make change together. Revive the old spirit that once we had. Can you see the beautiful valleys, rivers, lakes, and volcanoes, coral reefs and underwater life waiting for us to explore together? So take my hand now, make change together. Revive the old spirit that once we had. Can you see a beautiful valleys, rivers, lakes, and volcanoes, coral reefs and underwater life waiting for us to explore? So take
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very happy and to be the moderator this afternoon in this special occasion of Geotourism Fest and International. Let's get started. I would like to say it also. Expert would give their talk this afternoon would be Miss Helen Martin. Unfortunately, Miss Helen Martin couldn't come and presented her presentation this afternoon due to something happened on the way to the heaven, and respectfully he's excuse us for something, what we called it long backstage discuss. Anyway, I would like to let everybody knows our respectable expert that would like to give a talk of the presentation. It's supposed to be Miss Helen Martin, but unfortunately that she's not able to come and join us this afternoon. Therefore, she sent her best regard to all of us here. But we also have Dr. Patricia Erfurt, and then would be Mr. Kazuhiro Nobe, and Ms. Jagoda Wolensins, and Professor David Nusam. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Muji Ghaffar. Would like to give first to Dr. Patricia Erfurt. Are you there? Can you hear me, Dr. Patricia?
Hang on. Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. We highly appreciate it. Time is yours.
I need a shared screen, please. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, we could hear you clearly. Thank you.
Yeah, I need a shared screen for my presentation, please. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I need
You
a
may
shared
start it,
screen.
ma'am.
Can you please arrange that I can share the screen?
Beg your pardon?
I need a shared screen.
Okay. Yes, you can, please.
Oh, okay. Hang on, let me just click here. That's the wrong screen. Here we go.
Here we are.
Okay, thank you very much, and
It's a pleasure.
good afternoon or good evening nearly from Australia. And thank you for the opportunity to speak about volcano-based geotourism development. As the tourism minister, Santiago Uno, pointed out so clearly earlier, COVID-19 is a game changer, and that these current times require us to be more innovative, more resilient, and more collaborative than ever. That's why for the present time, we have to focus on two different types of geotourism development. One that allows international travel again, eventually, and one that caters for virtual or online visits of volcanic destinations in the meantime. Regarding the development of volcanic geotourism, the main focus of this presentation is on several key subjects. They're coming in a moment. If you have a look at the pictures on the left, they are examples of volcanic mass tourism, where visitors arrive in tour buses, by car and by ropeway. Both volcanoes are active and dangerous, but they are closely monitored and every attempt is made to keep people safe. For this presentation, I have selected a number of key topics which will be addressed and explained why they are so important. With nearly 130 active volcanoes, the potential for volcanic geotourism in Indonesia is enormous. Every time a volcano erupts somewhere in the world, the message is spread quickly and volcano tourism receives another free promotion. Wherever possible, people will also try to get as close to the action as they can, as the recent eruptions in Iceland have shown. While there are travel restrictions at the moment, this would be the ideal time to further develop the virtual exploration of exciting volcanic geosites and to continue the promotion of the unique natural and cultural heritage of Indonesia's volcanic areas. As a national tourism strategy, all forms of geotourism have a future, especially in a country with an abundance of natural and cultural resources. But as with other forms of nature-based tourism, the principles of sustainability must have priority, especially with view to any impact on the natural, the social, the cultural, and economic environment. To preserve the natural and cultural geoheritage for future generations, it is therefore essential to use a responsible best practice management approach. There are a lot of conditions that must be considered to provide a safe but still authentic tourism experience. Most importantly, only volcanoes that are closely monitored should be considered as geotourism destinations. Warnings of raised activity levels must be reliable and instant. Also, suitable shelters must be provided in case of unexpected eruptions. Tour operators must provide suitable personal protective equipment to all visitors. And detailed safety information must be made available to tourists prior to visiting active volcanic areas. Another requirement is that emergency and rescue teams must be on standby in case they are needed. That's why it is important that emergency management strategies for eruptive events are in place for every active volcanic tourist destination. More details about risk management in a moment. Looking at cooperation across different tourism industry sectors, this is a great plus for geotourism. As you can see, there are specific sectors that synergize well and can contribute even more diversity to the concept of geotourism. In the case of volcano tourism, there are particularly close links to hot spring tourism, which again is connected to health and wellness tourism, which by itself is a booming tourism industry. Depending on the volcanic region, there's also overlap into adventure tourism or dark tourism. Dark tourism, where visitors can observe former sites of volcanic disasters, like Pompeii, for instance. To benefit from such collaboration, special geotrails are very useful to connect various points of interest. And at this point, I would like to include a reference to Professor Noel Scott's presentation. When it comes to geotrails, creative arts would be a wonderful integration for geotrails, so they offer an extra element for people. Ecotourism specifically contributes to the diversity of natural and cultural geoheritage sites. And often there are opportunities to observe local wildlife or take part in marine activities while engaging in volcanic geotourism. The fact is, geotourism has something to offer for everybody, every age group and every interest. One of the objectives of geotourism is to encourage the observation and study of our surrounding environment. This includes the appreciation of natural as well as cultural resources. Volcanic geotourism provides an opportunity to explore unique areas on one hand, and on the other hand, people are invited to learn about regional traditions and customs. Here again, the development of specially designed geotrails that combine natural and cultural attractions are most advantageous. This is another very important part because active volcanic areas can harbor significant hazards and risks for tourists. They should only be visited with qualified tour guides who are familiar with the area. And because volcanic areas are somewhat unpredictable, tour guides must be trained to recognize potentially dangerous situations to avoid exposure to any volcanic hazards for their tour groups. To attain the necessary knowledge, special training courses should be developed to provide tour guides with the right qualifications to lead tourists into potentially hazardous environments. This is particularly important as we must bear in mind that in case of an eruptive event or unexpected toxic gas emissions, the tour guides would be equally affected and not able to help anybody else. This is not always clearly understood. This is the most important subject, and there are a number of conditions that must be taken into account some of which I have already briefly mentioned. Especially with a view to the tragic events in recent years in Japan and New Zealand, where both times many lives were lost due to an unexpected eruption. Therefore, only volcanoes that are monitored 24/7 and with no raised activity levels should be considered for geotourism activities. With 127 active volcanoes in Indonesia, there surely is enough choice to focus on the more predictable ones. Another point of importance is the provision of suitable shelters for quick access in case of an unexpected eruption. Such shelters, preferably from reinforced concrete, are a minimum requirement and must be located where tourists could be in danger from eruption fallout or from pyroclastic density currents. And even volcanoes that are currently dormant should have concrete shelters that tourists can reach quickly, just in case. Entering active volcanic environments also requires suitable personal protection, which tour operators must provide to all tour group members. Gas masks, for instance, must have filters that are suitable for toxic gas emissions because they are not uncommon in volcanic areas. There must be escape routes that are clearly marked, and all tourists must be aware of what to do in an emergency. This brings it back to the need for qualified tour guides. Also, it is essential that emergency and rescue services are aware at any time about tourist numbers in active volcanic areas. There are several lessons to be learned from the past, and hopefully this will help to make volcano tourism in your country as safe as possible. Actually, risk management starts already with the selection of suitable geosites that have guaranteed access by road or air in case this becomes necessary for rescue missions. Using strict safety guidelines and timely warnings can make risk management much more successful in active volcanic areas. When it comes to active volcanoes, there cannot be too many warnings. Erring on the side of caution is better than warning too late. And finally, all authorities in charge of emergency and rescue must anticipate possible crisis situations that could overwhelm rescue services. Many active volcanoes worldwide are located in protected areas. These include not only national parks or World Heritage sites, but also national and global geoparks, as well as other protected sites. To support the conservation of the natural and cultural geoheritage in volcanic areas, education is a great method to raise awareness among geotourists. This in turn should encourage people to consider the effect of tourism on the environment and lead to a reduction in the size of our overall ecological footprint, which is far too big already. Here's a thought. A program for geo-accreditation or geo-certification for volcanic geotourism could be developed for several reasons. To identify authentic geoheritage sites, to provide a genuine experience based on the responsible use of natural and cultural geoheritage, to recognize responsible geotourism development and sustainable destination management, and to endorse qualified professional geotourism operators and tour guides with important and valuable credentials. Such a seal of approval in the form of a geo accreditation could be another useful marketing tool. To develop volcanic geotourism as an independent tourism sector, there is of course the need for essential infrastructure, usually in the form of roads, transport and car parks, etc. This is often existing infrastructure that can be shared with the general public or with other forms of tourism. Supporting public services and amenities must be available for visitors. Special consideration must be given to communication services because travelers today rely heavily on their digital devices. No reception is bad for any tourism, but in case of an emergency, it can mean the difference between life and death. Visitor centers and volcano museums are great attractions and also boost employment and the local economy. Accessible and well-maintained walking tracks with wheelchair access, together with shaded viewing areas, are also essential parts. But there are many other parts that need to be included in infrastructure for geotourism. And of course, in national parks, geoparks, and other protected sites, information boards are needed in suitable locations. One thing is crucial for volcanic geotourism development. Visitor safety must always come before economic considerations. To achieve this, all stakeholders must work together, and there must be an agreement on safe conduct at all times. Also, active volcanoes should never be visited alone. Guided tours with qualified guides are the better option. It is possible to make volcanic geotourism safe, but this means risk avoidance at any cost. The tourism sector can only be as safe as tour operators, governments, and monitoring agencies are prepared to make it for visitors of active volcanic areas. This is why volcanic visitor centers and volcano museums are a great alternative. And right now, the increasing use of virtual reality is an important option to study volcanic environments from a safe distance. With careful planning, the positive aspects should certainly outweigh most of the potential risk factors of volcano tourism. And this is the last slide. Thank you for your time.
Well, that was an outstanding presentation.
Thank you. I just try to get back to you.
And I would like to ask the participant, maybe there would be some, it's time for Q&A session. I would like to also mention, I forgot to mention to all the participants and the respectable expert that Ms. Patricia Everett, PhD, is a research scientist at Geotourism Australia with main interest in risk management in active volcanic and hydrothermal environments and the conservation of natural and cultural geoheritage. Let's check if there's any question. Well, once again, I would like to highly appreciate it to Ms. Patricia Everett, PhD, for joining us this afternoon. Unfortunately, because we haven't got enough time. But please, whoever the participant would like to ask more deeply about the geotourism development in the volcanic area, you may. Would it be okay, Ms. Patricia Everett, that the person can contact you directly through your email?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you very much. So therefore, without further ado, we continue to the next expert. I would like to invite Mr. Kazuhiro Nobe.
Yes.
Are you there, Mr. Kazuhiro Nobe? Can you hear me?
Okay, yes.
Okay, thank you very much. It's your time.
Okay, thank you. Can you share my presentation?
Yes, we can clear you.
Okay, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. My name is Kazuhiro Nobe, and it's my pleasure to present during this wonderful conference. I'd like to thank the organizer for giving me this opportunity. I work for the Oki Island UNESCO Global Geopark at the office head of the Promotion Committee. Today, I will talk about some of the geotourism activities in the Oki Island Geopark. Next, please. This is the overview of the presentation. The first, location and features of the Oki Island UNESCO Global Geopark. Second, geopark facilities as a destination of sustainable tourism. Third, a geopark brand. Fourth, tours highlighting outdoor activities. Last, a new regional framework for geotourism we are currently planning. The Oki Islands are located in the western part of Japan on the Sea of Japan. There are 4 inhabited islands and about 180 smaller uninhabited islands. Seen from Japan's main island Honshu, the closer 3 inhabited islands are known as Dozen, and the largest island behind them is called Zogo. The main office of the geopark, its core facility, is located on the largest island, Dogo. Recently, in July last month, a small office was opened on one of the smaller islands, Nakanoshima. Next. Next, please. Okay. Oki Islands were designated as a global geopark in 2013 and revalidated for the first time in 2017. So we are now preparing for our second revalidation. Because they are isolated islands, the lifestyles of the people of Oki rely on the marine environment and the fishing industry. So the area of the sea surrounding the island is also included in the geopark. The total population is around 19,000. The biggest island has around 14,000 and the smallest island has only 650 residents. Next, please. Oki Islands are small archipelago, but they are full different resources. We explain the local resources by separating them into 3 themes: geohistory, unique ecosystem, and lifestyle and traditions. To find the relationship between these 3 elements, we have created the catchphrase, discover connection. Most people are not geological specialists, so we explain the geopark by asking basic questions about simple topics and search for the answer together. Next. In the theme lifestyle and tradition, we ask visitors, why were 2 emperors exiled to the Oki Island? Why are there so many different traditions or the festivals? All these things are connected to the geography or the landscape created by volcanic activities, etc. Next. In the theme unique ecosystem, we ask visitors, why do plants from south and north of Japan, continental plants and subalpine plants, grow next to each other on the coast? We explain that it is connected to the geology and sea currents. Next. Oki Islands have many places with beautiful coastal landscape. It is important to explain to visitors not only about how these landscapes were formed, but also bring their attention to the fact that these landscapes go through a constant changes. Moreover, we want the visitor to know not only about the Oki Island, but also about the Japanese archipelago, the Earth, and even about the Earth's interior. Next. Next, let me introduce some projects related to geotourism on the Oak Island. Over the last few years, the Geopark worked to the created sustainable base for implementing sustainable tourism program. This includes creating base facilities on all 4 islands. From data, we know that 90% of tourists arrive to the island by ferry. Therefore, the ports are the main entrance to the island. Because of that, with cooperation from local administration, we have set up geopark facilities in each port. Next. The core facilities is on the biggest island. The facilities are the key to effectively provide information visitors and strengthen the geopark's presence in the tourism field. The main facility, Oak Island Geopark Visitor Center, opened last year. The Geopark's main office is located on the first floor on the building, along with a tourism office, a small book center, a small book corner, and rest area for visitors to use freely. Before, the Geopark office was in a government building closed off from visitors. Now, we are right in the port next to the tourism office. This has brought the attention of visitors to the fact that the Oak Island Geopark and significantly raised its visibility. Next. On the second floor of the buildings is the Oak Island Geopark Museum, opened in April 2021, only 4 months ago. The museum serves as a starting point when venturing into the geopark. It's a place where tourism can familiarize themselves with the concept of geopark and sustainable tourism. We also hope that the visit to the museum will change the way to visitors explore the geopark. Next. In July 2021, another new geopark facility, Hotel Ento, was opened. It's located on one of the smaller islands, Nakanoshima. The building on the right is the main building of the hotel, which has gone through renovations. The building on the left is a newly constructed part of the hotel. Other than hotel rooms, it also has small geopark office and geopark exhibition room. Next. Oh, sorry, next. And next. Oh. Ento combines the function of the hotel and the base facility of the geopark. The hotel puts value on the time visitors interact with the earth and try to create an atmosphere in which the visitors can feel at ease, surrounded by nature. It also works to present the value of the sustainable through its operation. Next. The exhibition room, Geo Room Discover, merges information about the geohistory of Earth and the Oak Island. The small exhibit which show local culture and nature are all white or gray with a simple design. This is done on purpose to make the visitor want to go outside, find those places and see them in real life in full color. Next to the exhibition is a lounge, geopark office, and a small library corner. All of these are open to both hotel guests and all other visitors and resins. Next. The new hotel building is constructed using cross-laminated timber, CLT, which is made by putting together layers of wood. The wood used for the panels to build Ento comes from trees that would otherwise be waste material. CLT has a smaller environment footprint than steel and concrete. Hotel Ento is the first building of this size to be built using this method in Japan. Next. The amenity offered to guests in the room are reusable wherever possible, and the necessary items are made out of materials such as bamboo fiber, glass, and cotton. The complementary water is served in glass containers. Next. This served in the hotel use products from the island and the region. The staff pays attention to provide the guests with stories related to the food and introduce the natural environment of the island. Next. Of course, it is also important for the outdoor facility to be gentle to the environment. This is especially important on the Oki Island, where many sites are away from the residential areas surrounding by rich nature. One of such sites is Clear Coast, a beautiful site which is very popular among tourists. The trail itself leads through a pasture with many cows and horses grazing peacefully. The changes to the land were kept to minimum. Next. The town also implemented eco-friendly toilets, which minimize the use of water. They reuse the water used to wash hands and flush the toilet by cleaning and filtering it. The toilet uses foot pumps and therefore does not use fossil energy. This type of the toilet does not need electricity and water service. Next. At the Geopark, we are also active in supporting local businesses to help small products be more successful on the market. We implement the certified product system and the package and design support program. The following are the main requirements for product certification and product development support program. First, the applicant must be located in Oki. Second, the product must be manufactured in Oki. Third, over 50% of the product must be made with raw materials from Oki. Fourth, the applicant must have a sustainable manufacturing system. Fifth, the products must clearly represent the Oki Islands. These strict requirements help to ensure the quality of certified products. Package design support program helps to find the design of the packaging to make the products more appealing and promote sales. These initiatives seek to target local small businesses, individuals, and groups. Next. The coordination to become certified products are very hard to clear. So we only have 2 certified products as of now. the package design program is more popular. Products have received the subsidy until now, and we have been receiving more and more applications in the current years. All products shown here have created new package using our support program. New packaging caused the sales to increase 3 times for the two products on the left. The product on the left has also become our first certified products. Next. When it comes to sustainable tourism up until now, we developed tours such as ski kayaking and hiking. In 2021, we started a new project tours on electric mountain bicycle. Right now, we are developing tours for tourists interested in the outdoors. The program will combine guide tours on electric bicycle with ski kayaking and hiking. Recently, more and more local people and organizations are interested in the geopark concept and cooperate with us. Local bodies are becoming more conscious about sustainable development and think together with us on how to revitalize the island. Next. The concept of geopark is slowly but surely spreading in the local tourism sector. Such geopark activities have been possibly evaluated in order to create an even better framework to revitalize the regional tourism. We are planning to merge with Oki Islands Tourism Association in April next year. This tourism association is an organization that oversees tourism on all 4 islands. The new organization is expected to provide a more effective environment for the development of geotourism and local revitalization. Next. To sum up, for the last few years, we have focused on improving our geopark facilities and other hardware so that we can provide tourists with more effective information, service, and make sightseeing around the island a smooth process. In the future, we want to build on the already created base for the geotourism and use in activities revitalizing the region. The geopark concept has proven to be very successful in education on the island, and we want to achieve the same in regional development and tourism too. With this, I'd like to end my presentation. Thank you for your attention.
Mr. Kazuhiro Nobe, that was a remarkable presentation. And please be advised that we have a similarity in island where we're coming from. In Lombok, we've got a few small islands that might be similar with Oki Islands over there. Since we haven't got a question from a participant, I would like to ask you a question. It's very interesting that you've got this tourist association on every islands. We did such a thing too on our island of Lombok, but seems like it's not work properly. Is there any key thing that we might apply in order to be able for us to do? I understand that we cannot apple to apple between Oki Island and our UNESCO Global Geopark on the island. In this case, of course, when it's related to education, standard of education in Oki Island, I believe it's slightly better than we've got here in Rinjani and Lombok. Is there anything that you can advise us when it's regarding the key stakeholders, what I call it as the tourism association?
So, hello, my name is Yagoda. I will help with translation during the questions.
Yes, please. Thank you.
今はロンボックでは同じのように各島にはファシリティを拠点施設を置いて、でもあまりうまく運営できなかったので、大きいんでなんかおすすめのレコメンデーションどうして成功してるのか。
なんかジョーパックという考えで、僕はツーリズムをやるということをみんなが認識で一緒になることができた。
So for the Oki Islands, the case is that we managed to open new facilities on each island in the ports because the players on each island and the administration especially, they have agreed that we should jointly work together to implement geotourism as a main type of tourism on the Oki Islands.
大きな観光はもうジオパートで行くんだという、そういう共通認識になったという。
So over the last few years, the atmosphere and the joint thinking of the administration became that we should implement tourism through the geopark on the islands. And that's what helped us a lot.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kazuhiro Nobe. What we call arigato gozaimasu, maybe that's what you call, and anata orisades. And I would like to advise to the participant that Mr. Kazuhiro Nobe, he's originally from Dogo Island, one of the Oki Islands. And however, having left Oki at high school, he grew up without much knowledge of his home. And today he works to help raise future generation who love and proud of the Oki Island and want to share this with others. Once again, thank you very much, Mr. Kazuhiro Nobe. And please be advised also to Ibu Patricia, please do not left the room yet because we would like to ask all the experts the closing statement. And ladies and gentlemen, our last speakers would be Professor David Newsam. Unfortunately, due to COVID rising up somewhere, so as we know that Professor David Newsam is related quite a lot his research on the current issue of COVID, so he's on the journey, so he would send the videotaping instead. So let's have a look and listen to the videotaping that's sent by Professor David Newsam.
What this work is based on is collaboration with Heri Kayadi from the Bandung Institute of Tourism. And I'm very familiar with tourism situations in Indonesia, and I've published a couple of papers on geological tourism and related impacts. What this particular article is concerned with is it provided us with a really interesting opportunity to see what tourism was like before COVID, then what happened during COVID, and then what has happened afterwards. Hopefully you can see all the text on the screen there. Can you see that okay?
Very clear, Prof.
Okay, good. So I've just explained these things, and the interesting thing about this is that before COVID impacted on tourism around the world, there were many, many problems being highlighted to do with over-tourism, mass tourism, places being swamped by people, be it cultural sites in Europe or natural sites in North America, and of course, geoparks in Indonesia. The United Nations World Tourism Organization forecast for up to the year 2030 was just like a massive, almost exponential rise in international tourism activity. And this was in 2020 was forecasted to be more than 1.5 billion international visitors per year, rising to nearly 2 billion in 2030. Now, of that increase, that of course is concerned with all different types of tourism, but embedded within that is a significant percentage is nature tourism, ecotourism, and geotourism, and in particular visits to geoparks around the world. The actual data is interesting. The actual data is well in tune with the forecast, and you can see from the Asia Pacific part of the graph there that the Asia Pacific really has expanded significantly in the last 5 years or so, with massive increases in international and domestic tourism in places like Vietnam, Indonesia, and Thailand. And of course, you could, just going back to that, you can see the yellow for Europe, also massive increases in Europe. We ended up with a situation where Europe, and it really started in Europe, that local communities, the people who in many ways were seen to benefit from all of this tourism, started complaining. They said that the prices were going up, people couldn't get rents, the price of buying a house had quadrupled, the food was more expensive, the streets were congested, and there was resistance in places like Italy and in Spain and in France, and you could see this graffiti, "Tourists go home," which is interesting, which indicates to me that the golden egg of tourism is being broken in many parts of the world. Why was it like this? Why did people start to think like this? And why did this graffiti start appearing in Europe? Well, people didn't like congestion and crowding. And it's interesting to reflect now on a lot of the research that has come out around the world in recent times, which promotes the health and particularly the psychological benefits of tourism, the benefits of being in nature. And these benefits are associated with enjoying peace and quiet, the outdoors, and seeing wildlife. And of course, congestion and crowding does not allow that to happen. So those benefits were being eroded. If there are too many people, management can't really enforce regulations or control bad behavior. There's two photographs here. There's one from the Jurassic Coastline World Heritage Site, which is the top one. And you can see massive erosion where people have just left the pathway and just walked down and eroded the slopes, trying to access the beach and lower slopes. The bottom one is a more remote site in Western Australia where the rules are that you do not climb on the landforms, but you can see that there's someone climbing on the landforms because they're not even the regulations are not being enforced, even in a situation where there are not so many visitors in many other places. And in the list of things there, you can see that there's soil erosion, trampling vegetation, pollution and littering. And pollution and littering, as we'll see, are significant problems in Indonesia. And management, in an attempt to try and deal with that, come up with various management scenarios to try and control things. And I'll develop that aspect a little bit later on. Let's bring ourselves actually to Indonesia. This is a popular busy weekend with people trying to access a geopark in Indonesia. And this is before the COVID lockdown situation eventuated. And you can see from this that all the congestion problems that many people in Europe in particular do not like are being realized here. And this photograph on the left side of the slide here really illustrates the sort of condition that can arise through heavy visitation. And what we have to ask ourselves is that what are the impacts of this sort of thing? Well, if we actually look at Rinjani in this table is from the Newsom, the Kayadi and Newsom paper. You can see that before COVID, there was congestion, litter, waste, and vehicle emissions. And also there was fires and people feeding monkeys, and management would really have a lot of difficulty in trying to deal with such a situation where there are so many people on site that it's impossible to police it. So it would be difficult to even fix anything that was damaged, to repair paths that were eroded and so on. And this table, taken from the paper, highlights many geoparks and protected areas in Indonesia where these sort of problems were taking place. However, COVID came along. COVID came along and then allowed us to appreciate what might happen if all this congestion stopped. Sorry, just fiddling here. Going the wrong way. Sorry, folks. Now, this was a projected data for the collapse in tourism around the world, and the actual reality of it is much worse than those figures suggest. So what happened in Indonesia? So, for example, what happened at Rinjani? No visitation. Well, the first thing we noticed, of course, there's no revenue. There's not all the revenue that's coming in that helps to provide a living for people and help for pay to manage the park. So all the businesses were closed. But on the environmental side, there was reduced congestion, less waste, less air pollution, more wildlife was seen, and there was scope. There was scope for the recovery of wildlife, but for the birds, monkeys, and various species that also occur in the park to come back and sort of recover from the stress of heavy human presence. And the site protection work could also be carried out. And this was something that was seen across all the studied geoparks and in some national parks that were studied in Indonesia. At the same time, however, the loss of income for local communities, for some local communities, was catastrophic. It was also noticed there was a decline in conservation activities because park management were not there to supervise and control any problematic situations and also deal with illegal activities. And you can see from this graph here that Indonesia is not really doing very well at all with the increase in illegal logging activity that was noticed during the lockdown, because during the lockdown, a lot of conservation actions were halted. More poaching occurred. Illegal mining occurred, and this was measured on the ground by site observation, and also in the case of logging by satellite imagery. So we go back to a situation where, okay, the world sort of recovered from the COVID-19 pandemic. We sort of thought that we had it under control, and various countries around the world, including Indonesia, relaxed the controls. And again, once again, people started going to the protected areas. Why did they go to the protected areas? Protected areas like geoparks, national parks were seen as places where you could have a healthy time and all those benefits to unwind from all the stress and difficulty that was the problem pre-pandemic with overcrowding and mass tourism situations. However, we're back to square one. So we don't seem to have learned from those previous problems that we had, and we're back to all the problems that we had before: congestion, litter, waste, disturbance to wildlife, and all the things that were seen before that really do need attention in the longer run. This is Mount Ranjani, a photograph taken of people after lockdown on August the 16th. And there's a couple of issues here. There's the sheer numbers of people. Whether you can enjoy yourself when it's so crowded is always a good question. But also the virus could be transmitted very easily with such congestion as well. And again, Indonesian geoparks, back to normal. Back to normal. And this is where I come to one of the main points of this presentation. And here's the Crowdin and Rinjani Summit, August the 17th, 2020. And I guess you're back in lockdown now, so maybe it is not like this at the moment. Mount Bromo, again, just some photographs to illustrate the rush to get back to nature. And there's some important lessons that we can take from all this. Susan Becken from Griffith University made some points at a recent conference here in Western Australia. She called for tourism that is closer to home. However, domestic tourism as around the world, the rebound has brought many problems. So the tourism that is closer to home is not working unless there's some sort of control. But she says in the next point that tourism needs to be of a higher value and less volume. And the question is, what are the solutions? How do we achieve that? She mentioned that host communities need a greater say in tourism policy and planning. Yes, agree, but there are many cases, and this one here, the Kinabatangan in Malaysia and Sabah, was not a good example of host communities having a greater say, because there was a massive explosion of local community developed tourism. And in the absence of a regional tourism policy, many problems occurred, and there were congestion related and pollution problems. And she makes the point, give nature a seat at the table. Absolutely. I think we all agree with that. But we do know from the data, lots of data, that conservation has been damaged by the pandemic. So what are our options? What are our options? What can we do? We can manage the site, we can educate, we can start policing. Do we zone? Do we disperse? Do we make more geoparks and more protected areas to increase the number of sites? How do we control the visitor numbers? How do we do it? Who can go? Who can't go? How will it be done? Do we demarket? Do we make it more expensive? Or do we sometimes have to close an old park? So these are the options, and some of them are easier to do than others, but they all have their limitations and advantages. So, trying to manage the problem. Well, they tried to do this in Taiwan, the Yaelu case study in Taiwan, where they had lots of crowding, visitor supervision problems, and trying to manage the problem by the use of infrastructure. And this is the point that I want to make, that you have to be very, very careful about how you think about managing a problem. So at Yaelu in Taiwan, they put boardwalks in, viewing platforms, walk trails, signage, interpretive panels. But as you see from the photograph, people are straying from the boardwalk and not abiding by the rules. There are people accessing the geology for selfies, personal photographs, and this is despite rangers being on site and even video surveillance, and people saying you will be fined if you climb on the landforms, but there are so many people there, it was difficult to control. And you can see here visitors climbing over the geology. And an example of site degradation, you have boardwalks there, but you can see there's all sorts of informal trails being developed. So the first thing that people think about is site management, but clearly when you have lots and lots of visitors, site management is not the only solution. And we have to go to what's been done in Europe now. They've had a big rise in domestic tourism issues in Europe, and the overcrowding has simply been dealt with by the closure of major facilities, closure of parking areas, cease advertising. cease promotion. So closing sites or closing access to protected areas under mass tourism scenarios was seen as something that needed to be done in Europe. And irresponsible. Sorry about that. Irresponsible users, there's all sorts of strategies that can be put in place, but there was an increased presence of rangers and local police. So this paper by McGinley et al. 2020 just shows what people can do and have had to do to control a mass increase in domestic tourism. So we have two choices, I think. I think we've got two choices. We can, when we think about where do we go from this point onwards, do we reflect on what it was like before, or not? If we don't reflect on what went on before, then we could end up with just back to normal and lots of problems, and of all those problems that I've highlighted very briefly in this talk. Or we can reflect and we can create a new awareness, but this requires action. So in finishing up then, I want to just mention a few things. The COVID-19 has resulted in more negative than positive environmental conditions, even though that we have been in lockdown situations. But the nature tourism has been severely disrupted. Post-COVID easing of lockdown shows substantial increase in domestic tourism. And there's no evidence that we're going to do it better. So what are our options? What are we going to do? We need to reflect. We need knowledge. And of course, the paper by Harry Kayadi and myself gives us a knowledge set that we can work with. And there are other journal articles and knowledge sets out there that can help us through that. We need to commit. We need policy. We need action. That needs to be funded. Who is going to do that? Where are the funds coming from, and who's going to administer those funds, and what are the priorities? We need staff and we need training. And I think this is what we need from here on. I think this is my message to geopark management in Indonesia. Terima kasih. What this
Please, Mr. Kazuhiro Nobe, would you please give
yes.
us your thought on your closing statement?
Oh, first let me thank you again for inviting me and giving me this opportunity to present today during this amazing conference. Since the time I first heard about the JOPA concept, I have considered it to be a very important method to developing the region of the Oki Island. The JOPA concept includes all the important aspects that are necessary for sustainable development. I hope that all participants today will be successful their projects to achieve sustainability in their respective regions. Thank you again and goodbye. Sayonara. Arigato.
Thank you very much, Anatani Aite Orisides, Mr. Kazuhiro Nobe. Arigato gozaimasu. Hopefully that we could see all of you, not through online, but offline. I really hope that. Anyway, thank you very much for everybody and all the participants. Let's give us a round of applause for everybody and also to the respectable expert this afternoon. I'm Uji Gavar. I'm honored to stand before you to be your moderator. But before then, we would like to give us our local performance that presented by Mataram Tourism Institute. This dance is called Sasambo dance. It's a representative of the three tribes that live in West Nusa Tenggara. So Sasambo stands for Sasak, is the main tribe of people who live on the island of Lombok, and then Samawa is the tribe that live on the west part of Sumbawa Island, and then Mbojo, that's another tribe that live mostly on the started from the middle island of Sumbawa to the eastern part. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much one more time. See you next time. Stay healthy, stay safe, and clean liners. All the best. Uji Gapar, let's enjoy the dance. Bye-bye.